There are a handful of key players that will determine the fate of Colorado's season, none more than quarterback Shedeur Sanders.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Borba. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. We are also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcasts. I want to thank you guys for tuning in, making me your first listen of the day, making sure that I show you guys appreciation for liking, subscribing, and sharing this with all your friends so that way we can continue to grow this community. Let's talk about the most important buffs on the season or ahead of the season as Colorado is set to embark on what could be a pivotal season for this program and its trajectory. So I got this idea to go through who I think will decide Colorado's season the most. Now, obviously, there's things such as making sure all the coaching works out and making sure that injuries are obviously, if Shedeur Sanders gets injured, like the season is, I don't want to say over, but it's probably not going to go well. So let's ignore like the very obvious, like outside things where it's like coaching, injuries, whatever it may be. Let's talk about which 5 players, because I think there's 5 of them where it's like, I think if they have the season that fans hope and expect them to have, this Colorado team will be cooking. And obviously, I mentioned Shedeur Sanders. He's one of the best quarterbacks in college football. I think you can make an argument that he is the best quarterback in college football, just based off the fact that he doesn't turn the ball over a lot. He has a huge arm. I think he's more mobile than people give him credit for. I think obviously his rushing stats of 111 carries for negative 77 yards doesn't do him justice, but we've seen him make plays with his legs. We've seen him keep plays alive. And so he has a big arm. He's accurate. He can move around in the pocket when needed. And he just needs to hit another level for Colorado. And you're probably like, why does he need to hit another level? Well, I think a great quarterback specifically, mask a lot of issues. And last year, had that same Colorado team had a different quarterback, they would have gone probably 0-12. Like, I think Shedeur Sanders was genuinely worth those 4 wins and probably more. You know, they make a kick against Arizona, they win that game. The defense, which Shedeur Sanders played a factor in this as well. The offense kind of went cold, but the defense doesn't blow a 29-0 lead against Stanford. That's a win right there. All of a sudden, they're bowling. You know, you look at the game against Oregon State. Pat Shurmur if he decides to just kill the clock, they get the ball back and maybe they could take the lead heading into the second half because they would have got the ball back first, or I think they would have gotten the ball back. Either way, they basically were trying to push the tempo when they were backed up against their own goal line or backed up against their own end zone, and obviously it didn't work out. And so there's just many moments where it's like things around him didn't work out. Now, I'm not saying he's perfect. Shedeur Sanders holds the ball for a very long time. You know, like he is, I think, the epitome of like, he is either going to make the play or the play is like the ball is either going to leave his hands for a great play or the ball will never leave his hands. And I think we saw that a lot last year. Now, I'm not going to put the blame on him and be like, you know what, he holds the ball too much and that's why he got sacked so much. But he has shown a sort of tendency to hold the ball frequently. If you look at his stats from Jackson State the previous 2 years, he was sacked 35 times as a freshman, 23 times as a sophomore. So, which it's pretty crazy because if you add those two together, he was sacked 56 times in 2 years. Last year, he was sacked 52 times in just 1 year, and he didn't even play the whole season. He missed half of or most of the Washington State game, and then he missed the Utah game. So obviously, there's a little bit of like him holding the ball is kind of like his biggest downfall, I would say. So how can this team be successful? Well, if Shedeur Sanders is able to sort of get the ball out and make better decisions in terms of when he just gives up on a play, I think sometimes you just have to sort of understand that there's not a play to be made there. Like sometimes you just have to be like, okay, I get this. Like I know what the read is. I know what the defense is giving me, but the route's just not developing, or someone blew a block or missed an assignment. Sometimes you just have to be like, okay, I'm gonna throw the ball out of bounds on this play. So I think the biggest key to him improving is just being more decisive when necessary. Like, I'm not saying that he doesn't need to scramble around and make plays, because I think that's a big part of his game. And so if Shedeur Sanders is able to improve on that, I think that's worth a couple, 2 or 3 more wins. And if you're talking 2 or 3 more wins just from him alone, that's 7 wins right there compared to last season. I think Shedeur Sanders, if he is able to play at the high level that we all think he's capable of over here in Colorado land, I think Colorado could be, like Joel Klatt said, kind of pushing for that Big 12 title, kind of making some noise, kind of beating teams that they shouldn't beat. If he is able to keep up that elite play, it gives everyone else on the team sort of a, I don't want to say a bailout, but it makes their lives easier. It takes away some of their responsibility. The defense, maybe they don't have to stop as many people or stop as many drives, because you know what? Shedeur Sanders is going to score. Or the run game, maybe they don't need to rush for 200 yards per game, because you know what? The passing game is going to be clicking on all cylinders. So I think Shedeur Sanders is kind of the key pivotal, kind of combine those two words right there. The pivotal player for Colorado. Now let's talk about the other four. I'm going to go the defensive line. And I have a few names circled here, but the one that stands out to me the most is Chidozie Nwanku, the Houston transfer, who, if you guys aren't familiar with him, he's a elite wrestler, or was a elite wrestler in high school. He's a physical dude. He's undersized, so he kind of has like that mentality where it's like he's not going to let anyone sort of hold him back or hold him down. But this past season, he had 25 total tackles and a sack. The season before, 36 total tackles and a sack, and a sack. So what does he mean to this team? Well, they need to stop the run. They need to get better in the interior defense. I mean, all over the defense line, but the interior defense line is where they're getting gashed the most, I would say, or at least a lot. And they need someone to sort of step up and be like, okay, this is not happening anymore. We are not going to be run all over. We are not going to allow offenses to just run the ball 30 times in a row. I don't think anyone actually did that to him, but they probably could have. Like TCU, like, this is me being brutally honest. Had TCU just stopped being stupid and run the ball against Colorado, they win that first game. They kept trying to test Travis Hunter. They kept trying to test the secondary. When they ran the ball, it didn't matter if it was Chandler Morris, Trey Sanders, whoever the running back was, or quarterback, in I guess the case of Chandler Morris, they were getting some chunk yardage. And so the fact that they stopped running the ball is what cost them that game, because they thought it'd be cute to sort of throw to Travis Hunter's side, and you don't do that. And so Chidozie Nwanku is going to set the tone. And even if he's not the team's leading tackler in run defense grades or stops or whatever, he's going to set the tone based off his leadership, based off the energy he brings, and just based off the tenacity. I think guys will want to match the energy that he brings. And that's kind of the vibes that Colorado needs heading into a season where they play a lot of teams in the Big 12, Utah, UCF, Kansas, who have elite running backs or elite run games. Like UCF and Kansas, they have 2 really good running backs, and they also have 2 of the best dual threat quarterbacks in the country. That's a tough thing to stop. Utah always has a stable of running backs. I would say they have about 3 or 4 running backs right now that they're probably going to rotate around and just power the ball down teams' throats. Like Nebraska, they're going to be a physical team. They didn't have any success throwing the ball last year, so obviously they're going to throw it a little bit more with Dylan Raiola, but they need that run game to sort of match the passing game or help out the passing game. So Colorado needs to be able to stop that. So Chidozie Nwanku, I'm kind of tabbing him as, I would say, the de facto leader of the team, the de facto leader of the defensive line. Even though they have a guy like Shane Cokes, even though they have guys like Amari McNeil, I think it's Chidozie Nwanku that needs to sort of step up into a leadership role and sort of a lead by example kind of role. Okay, my third player. Now, this one is, and I'm saving a couple of these guys for my next segment where I'm going to talk about second year stars. So we're going to talk about the offensive line. And I do think Jordan Seaton is one of them. Now, I think he's one of the most important buffs on the season. I think it's a lot of pressure to put on a freshman. I think he has a lot of room to grow, being that he's been on a college campus for all of a couple of months now, or a few months. but he has to mature quickly. He has to grow up quickly, and that's sort of like the downside, which I don't want to say it's a downside, but that's the word I'm going to use, I guess. The downside to playing at Colorado right now for Jordan Seaton is he goes to say Ohio State, and they're like, you know what, we have a junior who's ready. Like we have this guy, that guy. You won't have to be thrust into action. No, he is expected to sort of step into a major role right away. I still feel like he has some growing to do. He's 6'5", 285 pounds. They're going to need him to get bigger. They're going to need him to grow up quickly. They're going to need him to sort of live up to that 5-star billing right away. Shedeur Sanders was sacked 52 times, like I said. They need to cut that number in half. They need it in the 20s. I mean, preferably in the 10s to 15 range. The best case scenario is 0. Obviously, that's nearly impossible, but they need him to sort of be someone that they could rely on and be the cornerstone of the offense line like he's expected to be. Obviously, my fourth one, I'm going to go to the offense. I'm going to go receiver, which I was already on the offense, but I'm going to go receiver. And I think I have to go with LeJohntay Wester. LeJohntay Wester comes into an offense where they have one of the best wide receiver groups in the country. Max Chadwick from PFF came on the show a while back, and he talked about how great the unit was. But I think this unit has a lot of potential, but every one of their guys has it's like, this guy's good, but Travis Hunter is elite, but they need him on defense. Are they going to preserve him? We don't know how much he's going to play. Will Shepherd is really good, but there was some drop issues. There was some issues where he would get frustrated and take himself out of games. Jimmy Horn, drop issues, take himself out of games. Omarion Miller kind of disappeared after that USC game. What happened to him? Is he going to be able to string together consistent performances? Terrell Timmons, he has good potential, but we haven't seen a lot from him. Cordell Russell, great potential. Haven't seen anything from him at the college level. He has not played. Who else? Draylon Miller. He's got a lot of potential, but we haven't seen him. LeJohntay Wester is as proven as it gets. He is a good route runner. He's as fast as they come. He's great hands, proven pass catcher, over 100 catches last year. He is someone that I think Shedeur Sanders is going to lean on a lot. And I think the better he does, the more it will open up other things for other receivers and make everyone else's lives easier. And then the fifth and final most important buff, you got to go Travis Hunter. It's obvious. It's the obvious one. He plays both ways. I don't know how much they're going to play him both ways this year. If it's going to be the same where they trot him out there every time he's healthy, or if they give him on a little pitch count. They have a better offense now, so I think it'd be more realistic to kind of expect, or I guess hold him out of certain instances. Be like, you know what, Travis, we need you to cover whoever top. We need you to cover Dorian Singer at Utah, and we think that our wide receivers can handle it. So we're going to go every other drive you're on offense, but we're going to rest you every other drive, so that way on defense you're fresh. Whether that's the case, I don't know. They also need him to sort of take another step in coverage. I think he was really good last season, borderline great at times, but he also had moments where teams picked on him. Teams tested him. Stanford tested him and was quite successful. I think he gave up 7 of the 13 catches on Elk Iomatter. Tetairoa McMillan, the Arizona receiver, who they're going to match up with again. He was kind of getting the best of Travis Hunter at times. So they need him to sort of reach another level, and I think he's very capable of reaching that elite level. And they also need him to stay healthy. Travis Hunter, while it's unfortunate and you don't want to just label someone as injury prone, he has not played a complete season in either of his years in Jackson State or Colorado. He has had a bit of the injury bug issues. So it's like they know that's a thing. Coach Prime has coached him for all 3 years. They know he gets banged up. How do they make sure he stays on the field? I think that'll be a key role. These 5 guys are going to be pivotal in the success of Colorado this upcoming season. Give me 3 players who you think will be a major reason that Colorado succeeds, or if something happens, they don't succeed in 2024. Because I feel like you go a lot of different ways. This team is loaded with talent, but it's also loaded with guys who need to prove themselves. So comment below. When we come back, I'm going to be talking about 3 second-year players that I think need to have a breakout year in 2024. This episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at Gametime. Gametime makes getting NBA Finals tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to the tip-off. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Save up to 60% off of buying tickets last minutes for sports, concerts, comedy, theater events, whatever it is near you. Save even more with the exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or the event. Save even more when you choose a section and let Gametime choose the seats. Gametime, the lowest ticket price guarantee, or Gametime, they have a lowest ticket price guarantee, or they will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA Finals tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. I appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me a part of your schedule, making me a part of your daily routine, and making me your first listen of the day. Let's talk about who needs to step up as second-year players for Colorado. Coach Prime did not focus heavily on recruiting during his first season. He did put together a pretty impressive class, though, when he was on the job for about 5 minutes. He had a class of 21 freshmen. The class ranked as the 30th class in the country, which is quite impressive considering just how briefly he was there. Like he took the job, and all of a sudden it was like, boom, he's back. You know, he is sort of a mainstay already. Like he is already built this program up. And so let's go through the class real quick. And a lot of these guys are no longer a part of the picture. Just because they decided to enter the transfer portal. They have guys like Cormani McClain, obviously the headliner, Dylan Edwards, another headliner who left the program. Amarion Miller still stuck around. Adam Hopkins is at Charlotte now. They have guys like Jacob Page, Victory Johnson, Isaiah Jada, Assad Wasim, Ryan Staub, who is a very good backup quarterback, Carter Stottmeyer, Isaiah Harge, and a few other guys. But to me, I look at this group and there's three where it's like, this guy is going to have a breakout year. And let's go offensive line, Hank Zelinkas. So Hank Zelinkas was recruited or listed as a recruit. He was the number 1,820th recruit in the country, 135th player at the cross interior line, or in the interior line, excuse me, and was the 15th best player in the state of Colorado. He had 6 offers. He chose Colorado over Colorado State, Kansas State, Nevada, and Penn. And he is someone who did not start over Van Wells, but played quite well in his absence. He is someone who they needed a guy to step up when Van Wells went down. They needed a lot of help on this offensive line. And I said this a ton of times throughout the offseason, and I underestimated Hank, and that's on me. But obviously, Van Wells leaves the program. Colorado needs a lot of help across the offense line. So Coach Prime goes out and gets a guy, and Yukari Walker. He gets a bunch of, I think they brought in around 10 offensive linemen total. And Van Wells, who had a pretty solid season, I would say, last year, had a 67.7 grade total. It was an 81 pass blocking grade and a 64.8 run blocking grade. He was a tough loss. I thought he would have been the only holdover, but they have Hank Zelinkas, who no one's expecting him to do much. He comes in a few games, overall grade of a 61, not the best, pass blocking grade of a 67, run blocking grade of a 57. He is someone who, based on what I was hearing from this offseason, based on what I was seeing in the spring game, he was getting the 1 reps. He is getting a lot better. He is someone who they're confident in, and I think he is someone who could really establish himself as a key player on this offense line. You know, I said Jordan Seaton wants to establish himself as the cornerstone of this offense line. Hank Zelinkas could be right there with him. Hank Zelinkas could be someone who I think a lot of people overlooked because he didn't have the highest rating, and he's going to be someone that if all things go right for him, and he continues to put things together, that offense line now has 2 key returners and mainstays for Coach Prime, and that's a pretty darn big deal. Okay, moving on. We touched on the offense line already. Let's go to the defense. Carter Stottmeyer, who I thought had some bright moments last year. Obviously, I didn't love him yelling at Coach Prime on the sidelines. Um, I think that was a heat of the moment type thing where you get upset, you get sort of, I guess, overwhelmed with what was happening. I believe that was a Stanford game, and he just did not really keep his composure. Now, what is Carter Stottmeyer's role going to be? Is he going to move to safety? Is he going to play in corner? He can do a little bit of everything, right? So you look at his grades last year: 67.8 defensively, rush defense 74.2, coverage grade 69 or 65.9. I think a year under his belt, working with Coach Prime, having an offseason with Robert Livingston, and then having Kevin Mathis and just all of these guys around him, it's like, okay, Carter Stottmeyer might be poised to be, I guess, the future of this defensive backfield. Now, obviously, they have Shedeur Sanders at safety. They have Cameron Silman Craig, but that doesn't mean he's not going to get in. He played in 9 games last year, started one of them. He had 11 total tackles and a tackle for a loss against Stanford, and he blocked a kick against Arizona State. The guy is all over the field. He makes plays, and I think he's someone who, don't know if he's going to start, but I do think he's going to be a key rotational piece for that defense. And the more key players you could get, the more guys that you could get to produce or at least provide you a little bit of something, helps out in a major way. My third and final guy, you guys know him. It's Miller time. It's Omarion Miller. I thought he was going to basically work his way into the starting lineup after that USC game, and I thought he was going to stay there. And all of a sudden, he like exploded for like 200 yards receiving, was making diving catches, was breaking tackles, making plays after the catch. And then we just never heard from him again. I think this offseason, I think he learned from his mistakes or learned from whatever he wasn't doing enough to stay on the field. And obviously, the new wide receivers coach, very high on him, said he was in love with the kid, like in love with his game. Excuse me. So I think Omarion Miller, even with all the transfers that they brought in, even with all the talent that they bring in with Draylon Miller, Cameron McKell, whoever it is, I think he's someone who has a lot to prove and a lot to gain from another offseason in college, another offseason in a system where they will throw it to anyone. Like it's not a primary receiver where it's like, okay, this guy's going to get all the catches and then it's everyone else. No, they are distributing. Shedeur Sanders likes to push the ball down the field to whoever's open, and I think Omarion Miller has a chance to be a star. You guys comment below. Do you agree with my second year players that could break out, or do you think I'm missing the mark a little bit? When we come back, I'm going to be talking about everyone being all in on the Buffs in 2024. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. Appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day, making me a part of your day in general. Let's talk about gambling. Colorado everyone's betting on Colorado to win the championship. And you're probably like, what are you talking about? Like, who is betting on Colorado to win the championship? According to John Ewing of BetMGM, Colorado has the 4th most placed bets to win the college football playoffs. And 4.5% of those bets are on Colorado to win it all, which is plus 12,500 odds. What do I have to say to this? I think the better bet would be Colorado to make a bowl game, Colorado over, because their win total is not as high as it should be, I would say. I admire the I guess, belief and the sort of I don't know. I don't even know what to say. Like that's just crazy to me because I think winning a title in year 2 is obviously everyone's goal. It would be a huge payout, that's for sure. But I feel like we're missing the easy one right here, which is just simply go look at their win total. And I'm pulling up the odds over on FanDuel right now. Colorado's win total, according to our sponsors over at FanDuel, is 5.5. So basically, you could bet, are they going to make a bowl game or not? I think they will. I think that's a lock. Like I said yesterday when Spencer was on the show, I think they could start off 5-0. So then that would mean if they do, they'd have to win one more game in their next 7. feel like that's very possible. You guys comment below. Would you be betting on Colorado to win a title? I think it's too soon. I think they need a couple more years of this sort of rebuild. I think this year they could be contending for a Big 12 title if things go right. But a college football title, I need to see this team play. I need to see them on the field before I take any sort of stance on that where I'm like, you know what? They changed my mind, because obviously we haven't even seen this full team together. So be really interesting to see where they end up. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Locked On Buffs, making me your first listen of the day. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and share this with a friend so that way we could grow the show. I want to get to 6,000 subscribers by the start of the season, and I hope to see you guys all a part of this journey, and it'll be really fun.